Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Hipfire podcast. I'm your co-host Yasser, joined by my other co-host Seth. And do we have a jam-packed podcast for you guys today? Also, we have a special guest. Some of you may know him from the CDL Intel Discord. Please welcome Alan.
Hey, how you doing?
Alan, would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us what was your first COD that you played, what got you into the competitive scene, and what team you root for today.
First Call of Duty I ever played was the first Call of Duty ever released. Played it back on PS2. Well, the first COD that was ever released I was able to play, which was back on PS2. What got me into watching competitive COD was definitely BO2 because it was my favorite COD, and I had a buddy tell me about like competitive and like how it was like a big thing, so I started watching it. And at that point, I was like heavily into watching like YouTube videos. So I watched. There was a team called TK, and I've been supporting them. I was supporting them since BO2 until they got until the org fell apart. And then now in the CDL, I root for Optic Gaming, also known as Slashers Optic, the real Optic.
All right, that's great. Can't wait to hear your takes on what's going on in the comp COD scene, but let's jump right into it. So, as you most of you know, we just had CDL Minnesota just past weekend, and boy, were our predictions off from our last podcast. Seth, what did you make of the tournament and Florida winning?
It was a wild tournament. We saw a lot of upsets, lots of game fives, probably the most game fives we've seen all year. And obviously we had Florida winning it, so they became the fourth team to win two events, which means we have a really competitive COD league, which I love as kind of a neutral fan. I love seeing that. So Florida winning it though, that was a surprise to us. We had them actually not even making the semifinals, so that was a mistake. I kind of expected big things out of Awakening, and highlighted him in the last podcast, and he definitely performed well. He posted like over 1.3s in hard points against the top three teams of the game, which is kind of insane. And they looked really clean as a team, considering they just picked up a new player. It was nice to see, and I think our predictions weren't absurd. I guess it was very surprising that they would have picked up the win. Do you have any thoughts about Florida? Anybody else?
You can go ahead, Alan.
Since they picked up the young prodigy F3, they've been my like the second team I root for if like Optic either gets knocked out or hasn't been there. So when I heard that they were picking up Awakening for not only just for like an online league, but for them as a team overall, I felt like it was a good pickup because even on land, dude has put up numbers from the couple I think like the couple lands he actually went to. But I just think that people slept on them. They were definitely a sleeper team this tournament. People thought it was going to be either Chicago, Dallas, or FaZe winning it, and I just thought they were all wrong for counting Florida out so easily.
Yeah, just to sort of touch on that, I think we definitely counted them out, and I think recency bias definitely played into our prediction. Seeing how they did at their own event, I think they went out 0-6, which I think none of us expected them to just go get 3-0 twice, and obviously that was before they picked up Awakening, and I figured they would do well with Awakening. I wasn't sure that they'd be this impressive so early on, but they definitely proved us wrong and everyone else wrong that doubted them, and they came out with a win, which is very impressive, beating all Chicago, FaZe, and Dallas, which is the run.
Yeah, one more quick thing on Florida. Teams need to stop playing them on Petrograd domination. Just don't do it. They're like 8-1 in that map mode now, and they won against like everyone kept playing them this past weekend on Petrograd. I was mind blown. Just every team kept picking it. Every team kept losing. No, they definitely impressed a lot. And one team that didn't impress a lot was Minnesota. But unfortunately, obviously, there were some circumstances there with Alex's thumb. And I want to touch on that a little bit just because I saw some people in the community, going different ways with it, saying, referencing Aikes' previous injury with his thumb and saying how he played and he's like a different beast. I just wanted to say personally, I thought Alex did a pretty respectable thing. He tried to play through the injury, and obviously the results were pretty poor. He dropped like a .5 something, and did not do well. And then he also had the good teamwork and the good call to bench himself and have somebody else play instead. I just thought it was a good move, and I think that like this is the point of substitutes, and to use them well like that is pretty good to see.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, we can move on now to the Ultra because I think Yasser wants to talk about them for a bit.
Ooh, yes. So where do I even begin with this team? I know as many of you listeners are aware, the Toronto Ultra are my favorite team, and thus we paid extra attention to them during the season. And boy, has it been stressful and upsetting. Before we jump into this past weekend, we can look at their history thus far. I mean, the Ultra were the only organization to sign a 10-player roster, which does allow them to scrim with two teams and make substitutions easier. We saw after a mediocre first week, where I believe they went 1-1, Marky B, the coach, made a decision to replace Metals with Bance. Despite Metals having a great performance that opening weekend, he had like a 1.07. Obviously, through the two series they played, he definitely looked like one of the better Buckses that played that weekend. They decided to bench him. The reasoning behind this move, according to Looney, was to help communication. And yet Looney himself said the change did not solve their communication issues. In fact, it got somewhat worse, and they continued to struggle to get any wins until the Florida event, which we saw where they finally showed some life. They were able to get to semifinals. They were one round away getting to grand finals, obviously losing Arklov, Peak, S&D to Optics. Slasher kind of shit on them, 16 kills in map 5. But, since that event, we've seen them come back down to earth this event. They lost both matches, falling dead last in the CDL now, and we can show a bit of the reason why they played so poorly at this event.
Wait, where's the... Oh, there it is, okay.
Trying to make his way back onto the site. Sage gets eviscerated there on the bomb. Classic down from behind. Great timing. Kill number 4. Blast. Nice tags. Just now allowing Bance to make his way forward. Get the SMGs in close. Bance gets the job done up close. Now it's on to him, and the 1v1 is vivid. Lovely stuff. And a little bit of sauce. A little bit of seasoning.
I just want to talk.
Nice round. Oh,
so that's the clip. If for those of you didn't see it, that's Bant shooting bodies while they're up 2-0, and then they proceed to lose map 5 to LAG 6-2. So that's just absolutely fantastic.
Don't shoot bodies.
Thank you, Dance, for that one. So, one of the reasons for their poor performance, I believe, is their management. Obviously, coming into this event, the Ultra has this policy where they have their players have to play in Toronto. That's currently, even during the online league, their players have to stay in Toronto, even their bench players. Supposedly, Looney wants to go home to see his fiance or wife, and they wouldn't let him unless he forfeited pay. And then this past week, we saw a Classic had to leave Toronto to see some ill relative in New York, I believe. And they said if he was to do so, he would not be allowed to scrim with them. And this is the week leading up to what was their most important event. Like, they needed points if they wanted to place top 8 for champs, or at least be in the top 8 bracket. But they said no. Classic left. They scrimmed with Kleenex, and to many surprise, they actually did very well with Kleenex. A lot of players were talking and tweeting about how well the Ultra looked in scrims, and we had talked about that the last event. But they decided to make another decision. Classic was coming back to Toronto, so they decided, for this next event, even though we scrimmed with Kleenex leading up to it, we're going to switch back to Classic. And notably, they played very poorly. Classic himself didn't do too poorly individually. I know Methods definitely had an off tournament, but they just didn't perform, and they lost 2 important matches. Definitely hurts their chances at ever placing top 8. And I know their own players are frustrated with management. You saw Classic get upset, tweet out that he got set up by the Ultra, as we see Kleenex now coming back in for this next event that's only a couple days away. So it really is mind-boggling what their management is doing. And it really hurts their future prospects, because if any players ever want to come in the off-season, they just take a look at the way management's been treating players, and, it's definitely not an ideal or appealing situation. And, the cherry on top is, I saw Crone talk about it, they had Shotzi under contract before this year. Obviously, Shotzi wanted to play with the Dallas Empire, but just their inability to even try and convince him to stay with the Toronto roster is something that's a bit upsetting, because of how talented he clearly is. And that's all I just have to say about the Ultra. They've just been an utter disappointment this year. But Alan, do you have any thoughts about the Ultra this year?
I just think they were just seeing their team be formed. I personally didn't think it was going to work like they had hoped to. Seeing them sign a 10-person roster was, as the only team to do it in the league, was weird. But as we saw with other teams, it actually kind of works out better for them, because a lot of teams sign people to their bench that never even played. Like you look at what New York did when they used Happy off their bench, but then that was only a filler until they found someone else. So instead of signing people in the offseason to the team that they think could have filled in, they signed people that were just either close to the people that were on the team, or that they just were there just to fill a roster spot. While Ultra, it seemed like they signed players that they thought could improve the roster if they switched them out or if they swapped them in between. But I just think they're not making the right roster switches to make the team better. I can understand the move of bringing Kleenex in because Kleenex is a very, very good player, but I don't think that it should have been Kleenex for Classic. I think it should have been Kleenex for Bance. But role-wise, I don't know how well that would have worked.
And I definitely agree that I think Bance should have come out there, but his relationship with Marky B definitely keeps him in there. But yeah, that pretty much covers the Ultra, and I believe the next segment we're going to talk about, a bit of a brief segment, is going to be the coin flip or the map vetoes. So this was news to me. I didn't know, but apparently it seems that the map vetoes for the online league thus far is going to be done by a coin toss. Per Silly on Reddit, he said the best part of the coin toss is that you're not even told, or that you are told if you get heads or tails, you don't even get to call it. And it just seems weird to me that the league would not use seeding, or in some home and away system to determine map vetoes as opposed to a coin toss, because we're seeing teams losing coin toss over and over. And given how the maps work on this game, especially like P2 and Hackney, like spawns are everything. So it seems like such a weird system to me. But what do you guys think about that?
You can go.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was just gonna say, I heard the Rocker were 1-9 in their last 10 vetoes, the last 10 coin flips, which is stupid. It clearly shows why it shouldn't be decided by a coin flip. Mm-hmm. I do think also in this game specifically it matters more because of certain maps like Hackney Yard, where if you start on the good side of the hard point, you get an instant 60 point advantage, or even more than that. So I think in this game more than others, which side you start on matters so much more. Instead of having it decided by a coin flip, just kind of seems to be weird to me.
Yeah, the coin flip definitely is a flawed system, but I also don't think they could do it by seeding, simply because even though the teams that are in the lower placings, they would just be at such an even more unfair disadvantage, going into map vetoes and stuff, unless they did it where they had it kind of like a bracket where when this team plays they get a pick, and then since this team didn't get the the first veto or whatever, they'll get it in their next map, so on and so forth. So I think coin flips are definitely not the best that they could do with it, but I think coin flips are better than seeding wise, who gets the map vetoes based off of seeding.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if they could do the CS thing and just have everyone knife each other at the beginning of the game.
I don't think they do that, but no, I definitely agree. Yeah, seeding maybe isn't the best way to do it, but coin toss is definitely not ideal. But with that, Seth, you want to go into our next segment?
Yeah, sure. So next segment, we're going to highlight specific series from the last event. So the first series we're going to highlight is the FaZe versus Empire series. I think this is an important series to look at because I think even with Florida winning the last event, these two teams kind of sit with the top two teams in the league still. At least I think so. And I think they're going to be destined to keep matching up throughout the year, maybe even at champs. They're always going to run into each other, so it's nice to highlight when they do play each other. This series was very, very interesting because the first two maps were not even a little bit close. The Empire absolutely smoked FaZe in the first two hardpoints, for that hardpoint and then the search. Not close maps at all. And based on how Atlanta played against Seattle, people kind of thought it was a done deal and that they're going to close it out in 3-0 FaZe. But FaZe had their reverse sweep move mode on, so obviously they came back and won. I just wanted to say though, for this series, it was really interesting to see Simp get shut down by Shotzi and Ibiza, and Priest had an off series. The sub pressure on FaZe, which everyone thought at the beginning of the year were going to be the best kind of sub team in the game. They got stomped. They got shut down by Empire. The way they won was search was Celium going off. Major Maniac had a really good map 3. So they had other guys step up, which was nice to see. We're going to show a little clip from 2 clips from that series. So let's go to the first one. So
but Illy answers immediately back here now. A 4v4. Wrong place, wrong time. Major Maniac, good rotation. I love how
time.
far he is pushed up here. This is where he found Clayster on the other.
Yeah, he does it every
Round
time, man. Major
Grim
Maniacs,
6-2.
his positioning has been so great all search long. Every single time, willing to take those risks, willing to move forward, knowing full well that Simp's got him covered. He just creates those opportunities for his team. Shotzzy will be able to get that bomb down. Backs on up
He's the one that
immediately. Has to
planted.
watch out though. Those Met police cars have not exploded yet, so if anyone's got any grenades or Semtex to throw, that's going to help out. Krim does take care of Major Maniac still. 3 versus 2 now on the retake phase, trying to make their way in. They have pretty much full sight control. They don't have the angles though on this bomb. That's exactly where Shotzzy is. He can see the bomb from underneath that truck from very, very far away. If anyone goes for it...
But not on it. He knows that. Where's Krim at? Krim, just a little further behind. Krim's got to get taken down, but Shotzzy is still
Here we
behind
go.
the truck.
Shotzzy.
Oh,
There's the
look
control.
at the time. Look at the time. Look at the time. Shotzi's done it. A 1v3 to keep Dallas in the game. A tap, tap, tap from Shotzi.
And now look,
Sim's like, hang on a second. What's this?
Simp's like, oh, dude, he could see the bomb. Oh, we're all learning, don't worry.
Yeah, it was a funny clip. Good shot, good spot from Shotzi there. It was just they ended up losing the map anyways, but it was a nice spot for Shotzi there. And it'll show the last round of the S&D as well.
Play. Abizi's in a position to possibly get the cuts there. Oh boy, it's just disgusting right now. Atlanta phase. Can Simp find one more? Yes, he can. Shotzzy in a 1 versus 3.
Oh, there's no downtime in between map 2 and 3 this time around. FaZe just come out straight swinging in Dom, straight swinging in map 4 and 5.
I love that clip because you just see Clay arguing with his teammates right after the map. Wastes no time to get into it. So what do you guys make of that series?
I mean, in my opinion, right now, these are the top 2 teams. It's FaZe at number 1 and Dallas at number 2. So whenever they match off, I feel like it's always destined to be a great series. But what surprised me most about that entire series was the Piccadilly, how Simp went to that spot like he's never seen it before. Like it just surprised me that he never knew about that spot.
Yeah, I wonder if he still played with Illy in the S&D online tournaments. He would definitely know that spot. But I feel like they don't grind it as much as they used to. Maybe that's why.
It could be, yeah, but it's just weird to think that, like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a common spot. It's not really like a, all right, well, if you're in a 1v3 situation, do this. You're this hyper intelligent, go do this play and lay there. They're not going to kill you. They're not even going to know where you're at. But it's just the fact that it seemed like they had no idea. And, like, when Simp went over there, he was just like, oh, this is a spot? I never knew this.
I think it helped that it looked like they got the last kill on Krim around that ambulance area as well. So they might have assumed that either Shotzzy would have gone for the trade right away or he wouldn't be there. So I think that might have played into it. I could be wrong in that scenario, but I think having Krim die around that area definitely threw them off the scent. But that's crazy play by Shotzzy. Although it didn't really end up helping them out anyways in the long run.
Well, so our prediction for this series was 3-2 the other direction with Empire winning. And I had that prediction because I always thought that the Empire would be a better Game 5 team because of their experience and because of Illy, and like they have just a ton of really smart S&D players. But I'd always like discount on the other side how many smart S&D players they have as well with Simp, Abizi, Major Maniac. Like all those guys grinded Search for years, Celium. So I guess these are like the 2 best Search teams too, which is probably why they're the 2 best teams in the league.
Very true. But I think we also have another series to get to that we want to break down.
Yep.
Oh.
And that'd be the LAG versus the Huntsman. I know the Huntsman fans will love to break this series down. But going into this, of course, hoods up. Going into the series, it was definitely an interesting one. I think for all of us, we figured if LAG was to win this series, it was going to be them winning both S&Ds and stealing a respawn, which is exactly what they did. You look at the first map in Gunrunner, Huntsman, it started out kind of slow. Huntsman and LAG were sort of neck and neck, and then they pulled away towards the end. Scump had a 1.32. Envoy was using the Uzi that whole map, and they went off. The map vetoes for S&D were very interesting because the 2 maps between Arclog Peak and Gunrunner were 2 of both LAG and Huntsman's best maps in terms of S&D. So I think Huntsman kind of got screwed over in that aspect. That they could decide to pick maps that LG were bad on, but they'd coincidentally be picking maps that they were also bad on. So we go to the Arklov peak, and it was not really that close. It was a 6-1. LAG, I believe, had 4-3 in the first blood, so it wasn't like Huntsman were getting first bloods or winning those open duels. They just weren't converting on them. We saw LAG often catch them off guard. Most often, it didn't look like Chicago knew what to do in bomb retakes, and I think that's something that they really have to work on. And a lot of the time, it felt like they were solo chows. Like, it felt like they were all spread over on the map, because LAG was always grouped up. You always saw 2 players running together. I think that's something they have to focus on. Just moving forward, we saw the Dom. That was, again, in Chicago's favor, pretty comfortable. And then we moved to map 4, which is the Hackney hardpoint, which I know that was a very interesting one. I mean, we saw Chicago was up with a 60-point lead, but they didn't have Hackney P2 spawns in the second rotation of hills. And that's where we saw the LAG really sort of roll from P2 to P3 to P4, started to get the lead in their favor. And then when it came down to P5, Huntsman was sort of left in this really tough spot where they had to both fight for time on P5 and then also rotate for P1. And then we saw when they rotated for P1, everyone went down. Decimate got a lot of kills towards the end, especially in that P1 hardpoint, ended up closing out the game for them. And then we went to map 5, which was Gunrunner, a very close series. Although the first bloods in Gunrunner were very interesting. The first bloods were 7-3 in favor of LAG. I think Huntsman fans will often... I saw a lot of them on Twitter going at Alec for the sniper, but looking back at that S&D, I don't think that was the issue whatsoever. Not that his sniper necessarily helped them. I think he only got one snipe the entire S&D. But Pristini got first blooded in 5 different rounds. Like, that just cannot happen. You can't have a guy... Yeah, I think it was 2-9, I think, at that point. But you can't have a guy getting first blood in 5 different rounds. Vivid was consistently catching him off guard. He wasn't ready for it. And again, I mean, just even looking back to the last round that they won, it was LG consistently catching Huntsman off guard. They go straight for A. Huntsman weren't ready for it. They're not together. And you can just see LG pick them apart. And we have that in the clip here.
Heavy aggression towards A. This is so different. This is different. The playbook is wide open. Vivid. Oh, the shots are in. The nade's going to push him out, but he's going to sit on it. Doesn't get the kill. Doesn't even get a tag. What an
I can't believe
gambit.
that no one went down in that first engagement. But first of all, is going to be Prestini. Scump does answer back. A little window is Scump's, but Saints is Mr. Trade himself. He's back at it once more. Numbers favor the Gorillas for the second time here in 2 rounds back to back. 2-2 knockout match, 5-4 game point here for the Gorillas to see Sunday for the first time in the CDL history. Envoy ain't gonna let it happen though. Not with
yet.
easy kills like that. Vivid is gonna fall, Miles.
Oh, here we go. Decimate still controlling that bomb site. Shots are in. Envoy now trying to make something happen with that dead silence. He can't get it done. Blast is going to take him out. And Formal in a 1 versus 3 to keep your team in the tournament. He's on defense. Bomb's now been had. Making his way forward. Formal has nothing to throw at this but his AR. Heavy aggression.
And yeah, T2P is sent home, sad all around. What's up? But yeah, that pretty much breaks down their matchup. I think for the Huntsmen going into future series, I think S&D's definitely got to be a focus for them. But Alan, what did you take away from that series?
That Huntsman fans are soft.
I mean, I think we already did that one, but yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but in what I really took away from is LAG is still one of the bottom teams, and I'm not going to give them so much hype because they got a top 4 at one home series event. But I think that if they were to tighten up their respawns just ever so slightly, and they would like to improve on them, I think they could actually be a threat come Champs time, especially with their S&D. Now, I don't know how well these players are going to play. If Champs is on land, I don't know how well these players are going to play on land. But if they play the same on land, I think they could be a real sleeper team come Champs time if they could tighten up their respawns.
I think Blast is definitely one guy, like watching him at that series, especially in S&D, he was such a force getting first blood after first blood. If it wasn't Vivid, it was him constantly picking off players in the Huntsman. And he also did fairly well in the respawn. So And I know he's sort of notorious for playing really well online, but not having that same air on LAN. So I'm curious to see if Champs is indeed on LAN, if he'll be able to keep that up. Because if they want to win, I think he's gonna definitely have to be that player for them.
I don't think Black, like, I know he's had plenty of years to prove it on LAN, but I also don't think he's really had enough, like, full-on main stage on LAN experience for that. Because, like, in the BO4 season, wasn't he on the bench for 3/4 of the year because no one went about a contract in G2?
Yeah, that was an issue on G2. Yep.
And then World War II, he was teaming with Sensor, and that's
Dashy, Doug, and Ricky, I believe.
Ricky.
So
Ricky, yeah.
it was him and Dashy basically good on that team. For that, I mean, they did all right. I mean, they weren't expected to be like a top competing team with that roster, but I don't think he really did terrible when it came to World War II season LAN. I didn't pay much attention to complexity during World War II, so I can't really have a full.
I mean, they did never place top 8 from my recollection. So
yeah, but I mean, like, I'm just talking about like individual performances for like him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how well he played individually fully. I think he played all right. Nothing like outstandingly great. Nothing to really talk home about. But I think I don't know. I just don't think he's had the full season on LAN to actually prove he can do it on LAN.
I do agree with that.
That's fair. That's definitely fair.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But that covers this matchup.
Well, I was gonna say, quick note on the Gorillas. I just want to say, Nato came in, and there's definitely some issues in respawn for him, but he looked really good in search straight away.
And
I kind of think he's always been good at search, but it's also a weird talking point because if you think about the recent pickups that teams have made, those guys have fit into SD super well. Like Awakening fit into that team's SD really well. Brasini in the first event when he came in was the best SD player on the team. And when Matt came in, he seemed, well, all 3 game modes he seems fine in. But it's just interesting that we always talked about search in the past being that kind of game mode where it was kind of uncertain whether or not new players could help or hinder. And in this game, for some reason, it seems to help a lot. I just kind of noted that.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep touch on. But you want to go into the challengers scene, Seth?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to quickly run through the challengers scene. So there was the 4th Challengers Cup this past weekend. And in the North American scene, we had Team Vengeance winning it. And it's the first time those guys have won one of the events, so that was nice. And they denied the Atlanta FaZe Academy a 3-peat, so that was good to see. I actually think, though, the best team, from a team standpoint of playing as a team, was UIU. I think they had like really good communication. You could just tell by the way they played. They just didn't have quite enough skill to match the pressure that D-Lo was putting on the map in S&D from Vengeance. And then FaZe Academy, they have a bunch of really weird strats. Like Sibilance pulls out a sniper to start the map on Petrograd, and one of the players pulls out an LMG, and they just sit mid-map and try to mow people down before they get to the hill. So they have a bunch of like really weird nuance and like really weird strats. But it's nice to see them grinding the game and trying to get better as a team. I just want to show some quick clips from the NA scene. We had a quick snap and 2-piece from Hollow from UIU here.
Dylan watching the flank per usual, but Willett playing very, very patient, just waiting for a door to bust, waiting for somebody to slide in. That's not on Eve's agenda for now, as they're gonna make the roll and Hollow absolutely snaps onto Sub-Zero. He should never win that gunfight, but he did, and not.
Yeah, nice little clip from Hollow there. And then we got one more from Gintroid. This is a round 11 clutch. With choke and then clutch.
Ooh, that's 2 down for Vengeance. It is now a 3v4. Still completely doable. 3v3, excuse me. The trades are going through. It's now a 2v2. Gintroid and Samino versus Gravity and Jimbo. Minor Gravity is only 2 kills on the board after 11 rounds. You got the info on Gravity. It is now a 1v2. Bomb is down. This is not looking good for
lose this
FaZe.
round.
He has to go for it. He's the 1 kill.
Well,
just play the clock. He has to play the clock. He's missing all of his shots. Oh my god,
he was just trying to make him get off the bomb.
If he just jumped out, he would have.
Bombs down.
If he just jumped out just a little further, he would have had it. he saw us.
Scared.
Oh, the snap onto Jimbo! That was a fantastic, the absolute snapper out of Jintroid.
Oh, the shake.
Oh my god.
Let him know.
Let him know the
Let him know,
absolute
Jin
snapper
Troy. I
out
love
of
you.
Yeah, nice little clip from Jintroid there. And they ended up winning 3-1 against FaZe and then 3-0 against FaZe, which is kind of funny. And yeah, Jintroid like chokes it, doesn't shoot the guy with a bomb, throws his nade and messes it up, and then gets spotted first but still wins the gunfight. It's a nice clip for him. And yeah, it was nice to see that team win their first Challengers Cup. Now we have a bunch of different NA teams that have won it before, which is definitely more competitive than other scenes, such as the EU one, where Team War won again. So basically, it's been them winning, and it's been the London Royal Ravens squad winning all the series. But Team War won this one, although it wasn't super easy because Singularity won the first best of 5 in the grand finals, and then War won it the last reset finals. I just want to quickly note Afro is really, really, really smart and talented as a player. They picked him up last weekend, and he's already fit in really well with the team. And he is a route man. He always plays for rotations, always gets really important kills on the map, and it's nice to see that from a young player. Like they gave that role to such a young player, which is kind of rare. And I think it's fitting though for that team. He plays really well on that team. But from that series, I just want to show up a quick bids clip because he did some nasty stuff.
Their last loss, but we'll see.
That we will. We've seen how much damage Bids can do if you're just tuning in. Bids and Detain have been running the show for the side of Singularity. Lots of high-octane gameplay coming from them and their submachine guns. You're seeing some of it already as Bids opens up with a triple kill, looking for the fourth. He connects with all 4 players to open up hardpoint here, and this man is incredible.
We were talking about if they could stay hot. Well, Bid said, yes, we can, and just got that 4 in top. And looks like he's gonna try and get some more. That's his 5th. Is he gonna get the 6th?
Almost snapped onto the 6th there. But yeah, I think those 2 teams, and actually you don't even see the Excellent Royal Ravens team here because they actually placed top 32 at this event. I don't know who they lost to, but it's pretty bad, and they've been one of the consistent teams. But I would say out of Wars, Singularity, and that Excellent, the Bad Cats team, those are kind of the top 3 teams in the AM scene still. I watched the series with Train Hard, and they're not there yet. Just not there yet. And then the last thing I want to note for the Challenger scene is another win for Renegades. I don't know, this is like 15 in a row, I think, it's at this point. It's just they're winning everything. The series against the Chiefs was not even close. The Chiefs won the S&D, so it's 3-1. But none of the respawns were even in, the Chiefs had no chance. They were getting outslayed like crazy every map. Pred, Swifty, Setsi, Crimson, all the Fighter, they were all going off at different parts of the series. So yeah, it was just pretty dominant fashion for the Renegades. I was going to show some highlights, but honestly, the whole series is the highlight reel. I had 3 pieces and 2 pieces everywhere. It was crazy. Do you guys want to say anything about the Challenger scene at all?
I think it's just interesting to note, in the NA scene, we're seeing a bit more parity compared to both the EU and APAC scene. I think EU and APAC, seems sort of you can clearly pick out the top 3 teams for both of those regions, and particularly Singularity, I think, has been one of the teams earlier on that really dominated, and I think seeing Team Wars now, and I know a guy like Dave, who's been in the scene for quite some time, see him sort of rise up again and continually placing atop the EU scene is quite interesting and nice to see for him.
Yeah, for sure. I think one more quick note on the amateur scene. They just need to figure out how to properly have communications, like how to do comms properly. They just need to listen to Empire comms, like in Dom, and listen to the way that Clay and Krim direct the team and try to adopt that, because so many of these teams play like headless chickens, where they're just calling out people that are one shot. That's all you hear in these AM teams. Even the ones that have like Parasite, Exotic, and Goonjar, like the more story veterans, their comms are still awful, like really, really bad. The best one I've heard is probably Singularity, or maybe it doesn't really stream that much anymore. When Dave still streams, they have pretty good comms as well. Actually, even the Train Hard team with Whalers, they have pretty clean comms, and they play like a team. But the NA scene, it's a complete mess. Like, it's pretty bad. I'm surprised that because the team that won was Pentagram's team, and they had some really terrible communication. But it was Dilo and S&D had just a feast. Just consistently getting It's like 10 kills or more in S&Ds, so that's why they ended up closing it out. But yeah, that's it for the Challengers Cup. So now we're going to move on to the next tournament's bracket prediction.
So we did this without Alan off stream. So
That's fine.
we'll go to Alan just for his thoughts and who he has winning and whatnot. But just as a quick run through our picks, as you can tell, we have Florida once again coming atop their group, beating Dallas once again in map 5. We just figured that Florida's going to sort of pick up steam. I think the more time that they play with Awakening, the more comfortable they'll feel. Their S&D clearly looks very strong, particularly on Ramaza, and I think that the Empire are just not going to be able to handle that the first time around. So we have them coming out of their group. We have Dallas over the London Royal Ravens, and this was a tough pick. I think based on how last event went, for the Ravens, we really expected them to come out hot in this one. I think Zero changed their team drastically. However, I'm just not comfortable putting them up there with a team of Dallas's caliber just yet. And I think the S&D is where Dallas is really going to shine. I know Weskins and his sniper are definitely going to pose a challenge, but I think Dallas is just a step ahead right now, so we give them the second spot. For the next group, we have Optic Gaming 3-2ing New York, and I think, again, S&D is definitely going to be the point of contention in that series. New York, a lot of them regard them as 1 or 2 with regards to being the best in hardpoint, but S&D is definitely somewhere where they've lacked, and I think that's where Optic Gaming will really pick up the slack. I think Slasher is only starting to get hot in this league. I think they'll only just improve with more time. You look at the FaZe vs Ultra series, and I think, as much as it pains me to say, I really don't give Ultra much of a chance. They just put Kleenex back in, and that gives me a sliver of hope being able to watch him play. But I think they're too far behind right now. I think their S&D, which was the strongest point, sort of faltered, and we saw that this last event, so I really don't give them much. So we have Optic coming out first, because we actually do have them beating FaZe. I think that they will sneak out a map 5 win there. I think that FaZe, they show that they're definitely vulnerable at this last event, although they can still beat these top teams. I think Optic will come out and surprise them. So we have Optic first, and then we have FaZe once again beating Subliners. I think S&D is just going to come back to bite the Subliners. So look at our top 4. We have FaZe and Hipfire once again in the grand finals. I think they're just the top 2 teams and are just too strong to lose earlier than that. I know we have Florida losing this time, and I think Atlanta, Seth touched on how Priesta and Temp, they sort of had slow series against the Mutineers, in particular Priest and Abizi. And I don't think we'll expect that again, so we have them winning 3-1. In the grand finals, we sort of went back and forth, but I think Empire will come out. I don't think Crim and Clay will play as poorly as they did last weekend or just a couple of days ago, and I think that'll be the difference. But Alan, what did you have as your predictions for this coming event?
Let's see. I'm just gonna go down the first round and just go through who I think is gonna win. I might not necessarily give a reason as to why, but some of them will be pretty obvious as to why they're going to win. Some of them might not be. But Mutineers, I think, definitely beat Paris. Paris, they have not been what they showed at the beginning of the year. They've been fundamentally flawed. Their slaying has been lackluster. Just everything about the team seems to be falling flat. And I don't know if that's because it's a communication issue, or if they're just not playing well, or if their role changes have screwed them up too much. I just don't think they're going to come out and perform at all this weekend. Empire versus Ravens, I think that could go to a game 5, and Ravens might be able to sneak it. This is just basing it off how I saw the Ravens perform last, but it could be completely different now. But I think it's at least going to go to a game 5. I don't think Dallas 3-1s them. And then for Optic versus the Subliners, I think Optic takes it 3-1 instead of 3-2. I think New York's going to come out slow first day. I think Zuma and Accuracy are going to have an all first series. I think they're both going to go negative, by at least they're both going to have a 0.8. Accuracy might be a little higher because he's a main IR, but he's going to be lower than what he should be at. FaZe is going to smoke Ultra. I don't think Ultra is going to be ready in time with Kleenex to even compete with FaZe. Then going to the knockout round, if it is Ravens versus Legion, I'm definitely going with Ravens in that. And Ultra versus Subliners, I'm going to have to go with Subliners there as well. I think they're going to come off. They're going to be a little bit more warmed up after the Optic game, and they're kind of just going to blow Ultra out of the water. As for Mutineers versus Empire, I do not think it's going to go to a Game 5, the second meet around. From this meet around compared to last tourney, I think it's going to be either team's going to win 3-1. But I think I have Florida taking it over Empire. And then Ravens versus Empire again. I would have Empire taking the second matchup. Optic versus FaZe. I don't, as much as Optic is my team this year, I don't think they will have what it takes to beat FaZe in the quarterfinals. I think if FaZe performs like they did this past weekend, then yes, I think Optic can not easily take it, but I think Optic can take the match. But if FaZe comes out with the fire and they're performing at peak like strength, I don't think Optic can take it. So I think it's like kind of like a fight. It's kind of like it depends on situations how FaZe performs, but I think FaZe will move on to the semifinals against Empire, and Optic will go on to face Subliners for the second time, and I think they'll beat them again. And then I think it would be FaZe versus Empire and Mutineers versus Optic in the semifinals. And I think Optic beats Florida and FaZe beats Empire again, and we're going to have another FaZe OG final.
Ooh, okay.
And I think this is going to sound like complete bias, but if Optic actually performs as decently as they have been, and if FaZe isn't having that hot of a tournament like they just didn't have a hot tournament last weekend, I think Optic can take the entire tournament. Because I think if Optic can avoid playing Dallas at all this weekend, I think they can.
Yeah, that's the thing,
they
right?
can take the tournament. If they don't play Dallas at all, I think they take the tournament.
Yeah, that was our same problem with Optic. We had the same thing. We're just like, we don't want the we think Empire has them beat. So as long as they can avoid Empire.
Yeah, I think.
But even like Optic Florida is also a weird series though.
I think. See, my key thing about the Optic versus Florida is I think Optic can win it just solely based off the S&Ds, because looking at Florida's stats, they weren't actually that good in S&D. Awakening had a 0.78. Frosty had a 0.7. The only two that were positive were Havoc and Pharaoh, and Havoc was just even at a 1, and Pharaoh was a 1.18. So I think Optic actually has the better chance of taking the S&Ds in that series, and I honestly think Florida versus Optic in the semifinals, the Dom is going to be a Petro Dom, because Optic is also extreme. Optic is also in recent events, Optic has actually been extremely well at Petro, and I think they can.
Yep.
I think they have a better AR opportunity than Florida does with Dashy and Slasher being able to run ARs on that map.
That's true.
I think they overpower Pharaoh and Awakening and Skies.
Yeah, they had that map. I think it was Optic against Paris, right? Where they had
were down by a lot, but then they just smoked them. They had them spawn
second half. They had like 120 points, right?
Yeah, because they trip captain had a Paris spawn trapped.
Yeah, it's insane. That's so insane.
But if Optic can avoid Dallas for the entire tournament, I think Optic can win this tournament. And that just might be in my wild imagination of thinking and bias, but I just think the way the matchups work, I think they can take it.
I mean, they've looked like they've improved every single event that they've been at, and Slasher again. I think after last event, he looks like he's finally shown up to what we expect of him.
Oh, he's
got the Infinity Stones, bro. He's almost there.
He's almost ready to take down the Avengers. But I'm expecting a big event out of him. I think Dashy and TH will definitely be interesting to keep an eye on them.
Okay, do you guys? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys think Chino is the permanent replacement, or are they gonna try to find somebody?
At this point in time, I don't think they're gonna. I think Chino is the permanent guy till the end of the year. I think they enjoy their vibes with Chino. I don't think they want to throw someone else in there that can completely throw off the vibes, because we saw at the beginning of the year these guys hated playing with each other.
Yeah.
And they might even still secretly hate playing with each other, but just listening to comms at home series, it seems like they're kind of meshing a little better together. It just seems like they're listening better to each other. The one thing I can say about Sheen, love the guy, Money Sheen.
Love Sheen.
He needs to stop ego challenging in S&D. We could have beat.
It was that Arklov Peak map, right?
No, it wasn't even Arklov. It was also when we played against London. I think it was his first I can't remember if it was the first event they played with him or the second. It was on a Piccadilly when it was a 2v1 and Kenny got smoked out of the window instead of
Oh
shouldering.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
If,
that was
Chi- if
Piccadilly.
Chino,
Shawnee.
if Chino just stayed behind the ticket booth, they win that round. But Chino
Lost
decided,
to
let me
London.
jump out. Let me jump out and challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess they've been gassing up Sheen a bit too much to the point where he's over ego challenging people. But
I don't think
Yeah.
that's the case at all. I just think that's just, I don't know. It might have just been Chino saw him. He's like, oh, I might be able to catch him out right here, so I'm gonna jump out and pregame. And I think, was it Zero? Who was it? I
it
can't
was
remember.
Shawnee. It was Shawnee.
Shawnee. I just
Shawnee,
think,
it was
think
Shawnee,
Shawnee was ready for it.
Yep.
Yeah, but that breaks down our bracket predictions, and I'll move us into our last segment, which is one of the chamber, brought back by popular demand. So this segment is essentially we're going to be asking our special guest Alan some questions. Alan can only respond with one word or one phrase, depending on the question I ask him. And yeah, these should be interesting. So first question: who is the most overrated pro?
Scump.
Hey.
Oh,
Which
God.
rookie player this season does not deserve their spot in the pro league?
Oh.
That's tough.
Oh, that's.
We said Spart, but Spart doesn't count anymore because he's not on the pro. He's technically on the bench.
I honestly, that's who I was gonna go with. Sorry, I'm supposed to only give one word answer. Spart.
Yeah. Spart. Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is kind of a tough one. What coach do you believe does the least for their team?
Marky B.
Yeah. Which player needs to retire?
Scope.
What is your? Okay, you can say a phrase or a sentence for this one. What is your hottest COD take right now?
Florida Mutineers will be the best team by the end of the year.
Okay,
Wow.
interesting.
That is
Will
a
you
hot
ever
take,
join
guys.
the Ultra fan club?
It's a cult. No.
Okay, that's a no. It's family. Which player has the most undeserved ego?
Right now, Pristini.
If you were in the pro league, which player would you want to shoot their body the most?
Temp.
Okay, interesting. But that would definitely not go over well on Twitter. Who cost 100 Thieves champs last year?
Nobody.
Who is the better player all time, Slasher or Formal?
Formal.
On the CDL cast or desk needs to be replaced, and by who? So you can say two words. Who needs to be replaced, and who are you replacing them with?
No one.
That's fair. This one's from Banjo. He said, the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word Donnie.
Fat.
Brutally honest. Okay. And
Damn.
go with their last one. On asked, who is the best player in the league?
That's tough. Can I give an and or?
Sure, why not?
Octane or Shotzi?
Okay, yeah, that's fair. AR and sub. That's definitely fair. But that wraps up our podcast. Unless you have anything else to say, Seth.
I'm just gonna say Dylan Rex. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, I have no understanding of what that means, but all right, that wraps up our third episode of the Hipfire podcast. Thank you very much to Alan for coming on as a special guest. Definitely helped out. Alan, do you have anything else to say? Maybe shout out your Twitter.
No, the only thing I have to say, I'm not going to shout any social media out, is Huntsman fans, get a grip.
Right, and on that note, that
yeah.
should end the podcast. Thank you everyone for listening, and to stay tuned next week for the fourth episode.